Have you ever noticed that some people can walk into a room and a baby who has never met them immediately leans toward them, opens up to them, reaches for them with a trust that seems to have no rational basis, while others, equally kind, equally well-meaning, equally eager to connect, approach that same baby, and the baby pulls back, turns in, goes quiet or upset in a way that no one can quite explain. And have you ever wondered what the baby is sensing that you are not? What signal is passing between two people that the baby is receiving and you have somehow stopped being able to detect? What invisible quality some people carry into a room that babies know how to read before any word has been spoken and before any action has been taken? Most people call it energy, that word that floats between science and intuition that everyone uses and no one can quite define. And the remarkable thing is that while the word itself is imprecise, the phenomenon it is pointing at is completely, demonstrably, neurologically real. And the science that explains why babies react so powerfully and so accurately to what we call energy in other people is some of the most fascinating and most practically important research in the entire field of developmental psychology, because it reveals not just something about babies, but something about the nature of human connection itself, about the channels through which we reach each other and are reached, about the information that moves between people below the level of words and beneath the threshold of conscious awareness, carried in the most ancient and the most honest signals the human body knows how to send. What adults call energy in another person is, at the neurological level, a composite signal assembled from dozens of simultaneous streams of information. The person's heart rate variability, which affects the microrhythms of their movements and their speech, the muscle tension distributed across their face and their posture and their hands, the speed and the smoothness or jerkiness of their gestures, the prosodic qualities of their voice, its pace and its pitch and its warmth and its consistency, the direction and quality of their gaze, the degree of relaxation or constriction in their breathing. And all of these signals taken together broadcast a remarkably accurate picture of the person's actual internal state, of whether they are genuinely at ease or merely performing ease, of whether they are present and open or distracted and closed, of whether the warmth they are expressing is being generated from a place of real calm or is being assembled on top of an internal state of anxiety or ambivalence or preoccupation. Adults process this composite signal too, but they process it through layers of social interpretation, through the filtering of context and expectation and social convention, and the many good reasons we have for overriding what our nervous system is telling us in favor of what our social training says we should believe. We tell ourselves, this person is being kind, this person is family, this person has good intentions, and we use those cognitive narratives to push past the subtler signal that the body is registering to grant social permission in the face of nervous system hesitation. Babies have no such override mechanism. The baby's nervous system receives the composite signal and responds to it directly, without negotiation, without politeness, without the social learning that teaches us to give the benefit of the doubt to people who appear to mean well. And what looks like an irrational or inexplicable preference for one person over another is, from the baby's neurological perspective, a perfectly rational response to a clearly different signal, a response that is more accurate, not less accurate, than the socially filtered response of the adults in the room. This accuracy begins to make complete sense when you understand the evolutionary logic underneath it, because a baby is, in the bluntest evolutionary terms, the most vulnerable creature in the most dangerous situation that human biology produces, completely dependent, completely helpless, completely reliant on the goodwill and the attentiveness and the competence of the people around them for every aspect of their survival, and a baby who could be easily fooled by performed warmth, who was as comfortable with an anxious or ambivalent caregiver as with a genuinely regulated one, who could not distinguish the signal of real safety from the signal of performed safety, would be a baby at significantly higher risk of receiving the kind of care that does not actually meet their needs, the kind of presence that is physically there but emotionally elsewhere, the kind of holding that is technically competent but neurologically uncalibrated to the baby's moment-to-moment state. The ability to detect the authentic signal behind the social performance is not a sensitivity, it is a survival skill, selected for over hundreds of thousands of years because the babies who had it were the babies who directed their most urgent attachment signals toward the caregivers most likely to respond effectively, and the babies who had it most accurately were, generation after generation, the babies most likely to survive. Which is why it is not a fragile or incidental feature of the infant nervous system, but one of its most robust and its most consistently expressed capabilities, present in virtually every baby, regardless of culture or context or early experience. Now, here is the first twist that most people find genuinely surprising. The primary channel through which babies detect what we call energy in other people is not the visual channel, it is not the face, it is the acoustic channel, the voice, and more specifically, the prosodic and rhythmic qualities of the voice that lie beneath the content of what is being said, and that the baby can read with a precision that is orders of magnitude beyond what most adults could consciously describe. When a person is genuinely calm and present, their voice has a quality of rhythmic regularity, of tonal warmth, of pace consistency, of prosodic expressiveness that is the acoustic signature of a regulated nervous system. The heart rate variability that underlies a calm physiological state produces micro-variations in vocal rhythm that are characteristic and measurable and, for the baby's auditory system, immediately and reliably detectable. When a person is anxious or tense or preoccupied while performing calm, their voice has a different quality, often a slight flatness or rigidity of prosody, a reduction in the natural expressiveness and flow that characterizes genuine ease, an inconsistency between the surface warmth of the words and the underlying tension of the delivery. And babies register this inconsistency at a level that bypasses conscious detection, that is received not as a thought or a judgment, but as a felt response, a subtle shift in their own physiological state in the direction of wariness or withdrawal or unsettled tension. This is why you can sometimes be speaking perfectly kind and gentle words to a baby and have them fuss anyway. Because what they are hearing is not the words, they are hearing the quality of the voice that is producing them. And the quality is telling them something that the words are not. Here is the second twist, and this one is perhaps the most beautiful and the most useful thing in this entire story. The fact that babies react so directly and so powerfully to the energy of the people around them is not only a vulnerability, it is also an extraordinary resource, because the same mechanism that allows a baby to be dysregulated by the anxiety of a tense caregiver also allows a baby to be regulated by the calm of a settled one, allows the baby's nervous system to literally entrain to the steadier rhythms of a person who is genuinely at ease, to borrow the regulation of another nervous system in the way that a smaller instrument finds its tuning next to a larger one that is already in perfect pitch. And this means that the people who most powerfully soothe babies, who can walk into a room and within minutes have a fussing baby settled into a deep and peaceful quiet, are not doing something magical or mysterious. They are doing something physiological. They are providing a nervous system signal of such consistent calm and such genuine ease that the baby's own nervous system reads it, absorbs it, and reorganizes itself around it, the way a small boat steadies in the wake of a larger, more stable vessel that knows exactly where it is going. The grandparent who has raised children and lost fears and learned to hold life loosely carries a different physiological signature than the first-time parent whose love is absolute, but whose nervous system is running at its first encounter with the anxiety of being responsible for a life. And the baby feels the difference not as a judgment between them, but as a physiological fact, as a different quality of signal arriving through voice and touch and movement, and the quality of presence, and responds to it accordingly. And this is not fixed. The first-time parent who is anxious today becomes, through the accumulated experience of showing up and surviving and learning to trust themselves, the settled and confident caregiver of tomorrow, and the baby's nervous system will register that change too, will feel the difference as the signal shifts from tense to calm, from uncertain to present, from performing to simply being, and will respond to that shift with the same directness and the same honesty with which it responded to everything else, which is the most encouraging thing about the baby's sensitivity to energy. It is a real-time instrument. It responds to what is actually there, which means that whatever is actually there can change, and when it changes, the baby knows. What all of this means, taken together and held as a whole, is that when you walk into a room carrying your energy, whatever quality of presence you bring, whatever state your nervous system is in, however calm or tense or present or distracted, however genuine or performed your warmth is in any given moment, the baby in that room is reading it with a precision and a directness that no adult in the room can match, is receiving a signal that your conscious social performance cannot entirely mask and your words cannot override, and is responding to the truth of it with their whole body, their whole nervous system, their whole emerging sense of whether this particular person in this particular moment is a source of safety or a source of uncertainty, of regulation or of dysregulation, of the specific quality of presence that the developing nervous system needs in order to settle and to grow. And the profound and ultimately empowering thing that this understanding offers is not a pressure to be perfect, not a demand to never be anxious or tired or distracted, because babies are not looking for perfection and would not know what to do with it if they found it. What they are looking for, what the nervous system is scanning for with all its ancient and exquisite sensitivity, is something far more achievable than perfection, which is authenticity, which is the genuine effort to return to presence after distraction, the real attempt to settle after anxiety, the honest warmth that does not need to be performed because it is actually felt, the specific and irreplaceable quality of a person who is doing their best with what they have and whose best, however imperfect, is unmistakably, detectably, physiologically real. And that quality, that realness, is exactly what the baby's nervous system is calibrated to find, to trust, to settle into, and to be shaped by, one genuine moment at a time. Subscribe for more Mind Secrets.